Lately, I've been really enjoying branching out on the channel in terms of the topics that I cover. I mean, the SCP Superheroes videos and the Marvel Combat episode have been some of my favorite things I've made on the channel this year. Both of those I'm planning sequels to pretty soon, by the way. But anyway, I figured I should continue going into franchises that I don't use very much, starting today with Power Rangers. Cause based on subscriber suggestions, I've been getting more into the Boom Studios comics again, and I started playing Battle for the Grid, which I'm really enjoying. So today, based on a vote from all you awesome subscribers, I'm gonna be taking some famous video game characters and redesigning them into Power Rangers. In my own new Rangerverse that'll be chock full of video game references. It may end up getting a little bit overstuffed, but I think it's gonna be fun either way. So, let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. Hit like, if you want. Subscribe, if you feel like. But either way, enjoy the show. Every reality across the expansive multiverse has its own team of Power Rangers. Heroes that defend their world from threats, like the evil Lord Draken and Rita Repulsa. But some universes' Ranger teams don't come together so smoothly. Today we visit one universe that took a very, very long time to find its modern-day Ranger fighting force, largely due to a particularly unpleasant artificial intelligence. You see, in this reality, centuries ago, there was only one Ranger left, after a battle with a world-conquering Dark Queen, Magnamalo Repulsa. This final Ranger, Cave Zordonson, managed to lock Repulsa away in a pocket dimension for long enough so he could try and find a new team of Rangers to combat her in the future. But the years went on, and his time grew short, searching unsuccessfully. Eventually, Zordonson decided to build an artificial intelligence, hidden away in a mountain near a town called Green Hills Grove, to continue his search after he was gone. He called this machine Gladys, and when Zordonson died of old age, she did continue to scan for worthy warriors to take on the role of Ranger. But Zordonson may have built her to be a little bit too picky. She trialed various locals who she deemed ill-fit to be Rangers, people who by all means could have been spectacular heroes, given long enough time to train. She trialed a local lumberjack named Kratos, who she deemed to be too moody to become a Ranger. She took the power of the Red Ranger back from him and locked him away in a cryo chamber in the mountain to keep her location secret while she continued her search. She then trialed a local nun named Cereza Bayonet, who Gladys deemed to be, in an unexpected twist, far too risque to become a Power Ranger. Cereza too wound up in a cryo chamber, with the powers of the Black Ranger taken from her after only a short time. On and on she searched, finding nobody to meet her incredibly high standards. Eventually, before Gladys had made any real headway in her search, Magnamalo Repulsa had escaped from her dimensional prison and was out for revenge. She sent her scouts to Earth for information and found Zordonson's machine still hunting for worthy warriors. Finding it hilarious that Gladys had found no Rangers in her many centuries that Repulsa had been locked away, Magnamalo went to Earth and found herself a Ranger. She found a young man fresh from army training named John Spartan, who she told about an alleged murderous robot killing people in the mountains near Green Hills Grove. She gave him her own version of a Power Rangers power morpher, giving him superhuman speed and strength, and the ability to summon a mighty mechanical warthog Zord. With this, her new Green Ranger set off to Green Hills Grove to destroy Gladys, who was clearly out of time on her search for new Rangers. Gladys had been unknown to most of the townfolk of Green Hills Grove, but the disappearances happening had led to rumors. Two local high schoolers, Tail Fennec and Sanjay Hedgerson, went exploring the mountains to see if they could find anything mysterious that could explain the missing people. This was largely Sanjay's idea, as he was more explorative and energetic of the two boys. Tail was his close friend, but was a lot more cautious and unsure of himself. He was more of a quiet introvert kind of guy, and was scared of what they might find up there in the mountains. And clearly, he was right to be worried. On their hike, they heard a clanking of metal and the thundering of explosions deep inside the mountain. Sanjay ran on ahead into a cave, where he then fell and hit his head, knocking himself unconscious. Tail didn't know what to do. He cautiously went in to try and help Sanjay, and there he saw a battle going on between the various limbs of the artificial intelligence Gladys against Magnamalo's Green Ranger. Gladys spotted the boy and decided he'd have to do. She fired the Yellow Ranger morpher into his hand and instructed him to yell, "It's morphin' time." In horrified confusion, he did so and was transformed into this world's Yellow Ranger. He had two blades in his hands that he somehow knew if he spun them fast enough, he could use them to lift himself into the air. He was ordered by Gladys to protect her. As if possessed by an ancient fighting force, Tail sprung into the battle and fought off the Green Ranger. John was clearly a superior fighter, but with Gladys's help, Tail managed to ward him off. At least for now. Tail was clearly a far weaker selection from some of Gladys's previous attempts at building a Ranger team, but with Repulsa's return, she needed the Rangers assembled fast. So she told Tail the history of the Rangers, leaving out the fact that she had several rejected Rangers locked away in cryosleep in another part of the mountain, and told him to bring her more fitting members to finish filling out the ranks of their world's heroic Rangers. Tail at first had suggested his friend Sanjay to become a ranger, but the boy had received a serious concussion from his blow to the head in the cave and would need to be temporarily hospitalized. They needed new rangers ASAP, before the Green Ranger could return, possibly with more of Magnamalo's forces backing him up. So Tail sought out a recent graduate from his high school, who was apprenticing as a miner still living in town, Steve Craftson. He wasn't a particularly heroic type, but he was strong and tough from his time in the mines, hacking away at rocks. Plus, generally speaking, he was a pretty good guy, though Tail didn't really recall him having much of a personality at all. But he did know Steve could fight. He'd seen him once in a lunchroom brawl, fighting off local bullies Bulk Bowser and Skull Gandorf. And so he was the next ranger brought onto the team. Steve didn't really have much of a reaction to everything he learned from Gladys about the history of the Rangers. He kinda just accepted it in stride and took on his role as the new Blue Ranger. Gladys, in her infinite tampering of the process of selecting new Rangers, had made alterations to the abilities of each of her Rangers that they could pull from the grid, as well as the weapons that they'd be given. To fit Steve's existing personality, she changed his weapon type to an unbreakable pickaxe. He could swing this weapon in battle just as well as he could in the mines. He was a solid enough addition to the team, but Gladys was still very displeased with how this group was coming together. But it was all she could do with the time she had, so they carried on to the next recruit, another potential hero who would end up with the strangest weapon of the whole bunch. Just a little mid-video reminder that I recently released a new ink bundle. It's got 80 different inks of different superheroes, transformers, monsters, dragons that I've drawn on the channel over the last few months. For $8 American, you can download the whole bundle, bring the high-res files into any drawing software you want and color them, or print them off and color them traditionally. You can find that along with different shirts that I've designed and posters linked in the little bar beneath this video. Check it out or some of the other art that I'm selling. Anyway, sorry for the interruption, let's get back into more Power Rangers. Now, Tail didn't have a ton of close friends in town, so the next person he brought in was just an acquaintance. But in a pinch, she was one of the few people he could get to sign up to march out into the mountains for a mysterious reason. The girl's name was Jigglypuff. She was a year below Tail in school, and he only really knew her from reputation in the annual talent shows. She had a voice like nothing you could believe. Although, one year when she attempted a slow lullaby for her song of choice, she actually managed to lull a large portion of the audience to sleep. Now, at this point, if Gladys had been a human, she would have been bashing her head against the wall at the idea that this was going to be her Ranger team, when previously she'd rejected a perfectly adequate lumberjack and a surprisingly limber nun. But all the same, she gave Jigglypuff the morpher of the Pink Ranger, altered with a microphone through which the girl could shoot sonic blasts by singing into it, or lull foes to sleep with the right tune. The team was still yet to be filled out, but it was too late to find more members. John Spartan had returned, and the Green Ranger came with a wave of Magnamalo Repulsa's disposable mindless army, the Goomputties. Gladys's 3 Rangers fought well, slaying all of the weaker minions, but struggling against John. Eventually, Jiggle managed to put him, as well as all of her teammates, to sleep with a beautiful ballad, then tied up John so they could all decide what to do with him when they awoke. Gladys simply wanted to terminate him there and then, but Jiggle refused, though she did pass the time by doodling some stuff on the Green Ranger's helmet in permanent marker while he slept. Eventually, they all did awake, and a sort of interrogation began. This eventually led to the Rangers becoming outraged by Gladys, who had to admit to having several people locked up in cryosleep to prove that she hadn't killed anyone. But it also led to the Green Ranger being told everything about Magnamalo Repulsa's vile, tyrannical past, of overthrowing various worlds across the universe and slaying of the past Rangers. While still very rightfully distrusting of Gladys, John agreed to help the other Rangers fight back against Magnamalo, on the obvious condition that Gladys release her frozen prisoners. And the agreement came not a moment too soon, as Magnamalo Repulsa, having seen that her Ranger was taken captive, was already initiating her Plan B. Magnamalo Repulsa had another trick up her sleeve, having known there was a chance that John Spartan would fail to destroy Gladys and the other Rangers, or even turn on Repulsa. She'd created a second Ranger Morpher, one that she herself could use to become a purple and red Ranger with the powers of an ancient and vicious beast. She carried a mighty blade, and her new powers allowed her to shoot purple flames from across her body. With these new abilities, she came after Gladys and her hacked-together Ranger team, swearing to slay them all herself. She was done allowing minions to do her dirty work. Gladys's shambled-together team didn't yet have enough members to summon their ultimate weapon, the Megazord, so a hand-to-hand fight was the best they could do. With John barking commands, the group fought hard, despite their limited experience. Jiggle didn't risk a lullaby, because if it didn't work on Repulsa, all of the other Rangers would be unconscious and unable to help. At first, the group had been scattered in the fight, running in and attacking Repulsa at random, having no idea how to handle themselves in a proper battle. But John, with his military background, managed to wrangle the team into a proper formation, using their skills in tandem. Tail would run in for a flurry of quick strikes, and while that happened, Steve would ready up a massive swing of his pickaxe. Tail ducked out and Steve struck a vicious blow, knocking Repulsa backward. Jiggle then shot a shockwave of sound to crumble the earth beneath the villain and discombobulate her. Finally, the Green Ranger could dash in and slash Magnamalo Repulsa with such force that she was shot off the mountainside. She fired through the clouds and vanished into the rocky mountainscape. They knew that someday she'd be back, and they had a lot of work to do before she did return, training to fight as a team and completing the ranks of their Ranger squad. Potentially even with some of the rejects Gladys had locked away. I mean, if this bizarre gaggle of Rangers could learn to work well as a team, then surely the others that she'd considered rejects before could be useful members. And so that first somewhat unified battle provided some hope that this world could one day be properly protected by their own team of Power Rangers. Well, I'd say I'm pretty happy with this for my first dip into Power Rangers stuff. I mean, I guess technically second dip, because last year around this time, I did a Power Rangers Ninja Turtles mashup episode, but that was pre the channel becoming more focused on storytelling, so it's just an art episode, there's no story to it. But give me more suggestions for other Power Rangers stuff I could do in the comments. I mean, there were a few other ideas in the poll that I put out that other people seemed kind of interested in too, but there's obviously tons of stuff I could do with them. And if you like this and you're new to the channel, there's lots of other episodes similar to this that I've done lately. As mentioned at the beginning, the SCP superhero episodes I think turned out really well. The Marvel Combat episode is a lot of fun. And please keep suggesting suggesting more franchises that I should try dipping into. I've been listening to the Percy Jackson books on audiobook while I work this week, so I can eventually do something with that. I started watching Ruby a couple weeks ago. Still trying to actively expand the pop culture franchises I can work with on this channel. And thanks for all the suggestions so far. But anyway, everybody, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.